Jesus referred to two prophets in his ministry a lot. The one was Isaiah and the one was Daniel. This is a look into the book of Daniel. The book of Daniel is a very, very interesting book, and it's really a must that we understand it, because if you don't understand Daniel, you throw yourself totally in a wrong period of time. Now, Daniel found himself, he was a young man of 16, and he found himself in the captivity that went to Babylon. He was taken captive. He was taken from his temple. He was taken from his house, from his parents, from everything he loved and knew. And I think it was a treacherous journey. It was like over 800 kilometers. They traveled through very arid places. But they were taken to the land of Babylon. Now, Babylon is mentioned twice in the genealogy of Jesus. It's part of what Christ came to do. It was part of the seed line that was coming. And you really need to understand this, because if you don't get these prophecies right, then you put yourself in a wrong timing. Israel came to a point where they sinned themselves totally bankrupt. They came to a point where they said, we want our own king. God said to Samuel, Samuel, don't worry, they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting me. And in spite of all that, God still sent his son, and he still came to the Jews first. It's no wonder that in Matthew 23, Jesus was sitting overlooking Jerusalem, and he said, what more could I have done? But you wouldn't listen. He left the temple for the last time. The disciples said, look at all these buildings. He says, break it down. I'm going to build my house, because God does not live in temples made with hands. And then when he was alone with his disciples, they asked him, God, when is this going to be? When is the end of the world, meaning that world? And when is the coming of the Son of Man? Now, we have to understand world and Son of Man to really understand it. But later in the chapter 24, he refers to what Daniel wrote. So that takes us right back. Here Christ connects himself to Daniel's prophecies. So it's like, this is the time, guys, wake up. So if we go back to the book of Daniel, this was a terrible time. It was, all these young people were taken and brought to a foreign land. Now, Isaiah 34 prophesied this. He says, it is for your good that I take you to Babylon. Sometimes we allow things to come on us because we are disobedient, and God is just sending the fire so that we can be purged and that we can be saved and turn to God. But these people would not turn to God. They kept right on with their demonic activities. And in spite of turning to God, what they did in Babylon, they created a new system of worship for themselves within the system that God gave them. They started Pharisees, Sadducees, rulers of the temple, and they also started synagogues. That is why in the book of Revelation, he calls them, it's synagogues of Satan. In other words, Satan planted his seed right within that system. Now, the book of Daniel, if you take the book as a whole, the book is divided in two parts. The first 6 chapters has got a total different writing style than the last 6 chapters. And the first 6 chapters tell us all about Daniel and what happened in Babylon. Chapter 1 would be the introduction. Chapter 2 would be where Daniel stood in front of this wicked king and he interpreted the dream. Now, this dream is one of the most important things in the word. Then, chapter 3, it's an outflow of the dream, because here this king made a statue and everybody had to bow in front of him. And if they weren't bowing, they threw them in a fiery furnace. Now, chapter 4 speaks about a tree that was chopped down, and then after a while, it started growing out again. And God dealt with the king of Babylon right there. Chapter 5 was the writing on the wall. And chapter 6 tells us all about Daniel in the lion's den. Now, please, this is all foreshadowing of the things that are to come. Everything in these 6 chapters, what happened there, is like foreshadowing the history that was about to break forth. Then, if you go chapter 7, chapter 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, you will see Daniel dreamed. He dreamed. And chapter 8 was another dream of Daniel. Chapter 9 is where the angel Gabriel came and he interpreted all the scriptures to Daniel. Wow! And he keeps on saying, Daniel, I want you to understand. So if Daniel can understand, we can. So chapter 10 is the history that was revealed in chapter 9, flows over to chapter 10, and it reveals the history that we find during the Medes and the Persians and the Greeks. And it all goes through over to Rome. But to understand that, you must go back and understand chapter 2. Because everything that happened here is an outflow of the first 6 chapters. Then chapter 12 is very important because it says, Daniel, seal up those things that I've said to you, because in the days that of their fulfilling, people will run around and then it will be open. In other words, the seals will be broken. And we know where we read that. Revelation, he says, who will open the seals? And the lion out of the tribe of Judah. That lion brings us back to, what is Daniel doing in the lion's den? Oh my. The emblem of Babylon is a lion. In between all of this, you get all the numbers. You must remember, 3 is God. 4 is very important in the book of Daniel. 4 is the number of the earth. Everything about the earth is 4. 4 horses, 4 winds, 4 empires. And that takes us right back to the dream. But if you add 3 and 4, you get 7. And 7 is God working with the earth. And 10 is complete. And so we know that they were taken to Babylon for 70 years. It actually just means that God is working with them for a complete time. So it is just one amazing book.